Hello and welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Anika.
And I'm Andrea, and welcome to episode 2 of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet. So now we see the USS Enterprise. We don't really know how much time has passed from the last episode. We see the USS Enterprise is trying to stop a comet from destroying the world Persephone 3, I think it's called, and the issues that come along with it. So this is a complete away mission right up someone's alley. So let's go ahead and discuss, what did we think about this episode? Initial reactions, Monica.
Yes, I think the planet is called Persephone 3, but I also think that they also called it the lab. So I hope that's also the planet, because that's what I have in my notes. But the lab reminds me a lot about a lot of Discovery season 1, episode 1, in which Michael and Giorgio are on a planet and they help that planet to get water resources. It's a different type of mission this time because accidentally the Enterprise helps the planet get water, but it's a bigger mission about giving resources to an underdeveloped village and society, civilization. So I really like that. I'm looking forward to talking more about Uhura. We learned a lot about her and like an origin story of her. I'm a little concerned about Pike and some of his judgment calls, so I'm looking forward to talking about that. And I sense a lot of like religious undertones. There's also some connections to Discovery, which is my favorite of the Star Trek series. And so I found like 5 connections of that. So before I go into a lot more details, let's talk about your reactions of this episode.
Liked this episode. It was great to see something that was like important, and there was some drama, but it wasn't connected to the first episode. Like, nothing that happened in season episode 1 sort of mattered here. Like, it does, but it doesn't. And I really like that because we're getting to see them grow in different scenarios versus one long scenario. So we're seeing how they react to different things, and I really like that. Again, we definitely need to talk about Uhura because I feel like we didn't really see enough of her in episode 1 to make to make a judgment about like this character and how she sort of stands up from how she was in other aspects. But this episode definitely need to talk about her because I don't know how I feel about her 100% right now, compared to how we've seen her in the past. I will say I did get a different reaction to the Enterprise saving the planet, because that wasn't really their mission to give them water. The mission was to stop the comet, and then because of stopping the comet, they were able to like provide water, which was like, oh, look at y'all helping out and all that stuff and saving these people from dying, you know. But that's not like, but you tried to save them from dying in a different way, and then you still save them from dying in another way. So it's pretty cool. And then there was we see some more, I liked seeing more of the interactions of the crew in a manner that seemed way more relaxed than we ever saw in the Discovery. There's no real like tension between the crewmates, and I like that because it was feeling more like a found family versus we're coworkers who are going through a lot together. In the way that Spock was talking about how he wasn't sure about something and everyone was like sort of kindly correcting him. They're playing jokes on each other. I don't know. It seems like they have much more uniformly together as friends versus we're coworkers who turned into friends. And this one seems like they could be friends who are also coworkers. I'm seeing more and more of that, and I'm really liking it. So yes, let's go ahead into a deeper dive of this episode. One of the main things that we see is Captain Pike's his quarters are amazing. His personal quarters, and we see what like people are sleeping on Discovery, and we see what Pike has. Like, hold up. Like, do you get a square room and he has like fine furnishings, a whole huge kitchen space, a nice little living area? I was like, that's better than where I live, dude. Come on now.
I don't know. It kind of took me out of Star Trek seeing that, because I saw him washing dishes with number 1. I was thinking, they don't have a machine that does that, or they just like to wash dishes. And I guess he likes to cook because they weren't using the replicator to make the food. And we saw in the last episode, he was making pancakes, I think. But yeah, he likes to make ribs, and everyone was getting together to like chop up food and serve wine and stuff like that. So it was nice to see that collaboration. I would like to say, though, there was a little hazing, and yes, I haven't seen that occur in Discovery, and I don't kind of like that. Like, I would like to see more of, I don't know, everyone coming in at the same level and not really playing tricks like that. But it's a gentle hazing. It's not anything big. It's not like they, I don't know, tortured her or anything. But I don't know. I thought that was a little childish.
I liked the hazing because like, when I worked in kitchens, it's like a standard thing. The new person, because she is a cadet, she's not on their level. So whenever I worked in kitchens, they would always have me try and go get that instant ice. There's no such thing as instant ice, but it's something like almost in every kitchen, they always have like the new person who's the grunt do it. And it's something that doesn't actually harm the person, doesn't really make them feel bad. But like, because it's more of like, oh, it's a joke because you can play it on someone else, and then like it still is just as funny. Like, oh, look, you had to wear your whole dress blues. Not something that could sort of like, you know, get her killed hazing. Like, oh, we do spacewalks. No. You don't have someone who's unprepared do a spacewalk. But like something simple like that, it took me back to those days where it's just like I had a chef ask me, or to empty out the hot water spigot. Those never empty out. So you're just filling up buckets and buckets and buckets. And it's just like, okay, the next person comes in. Hey, fill it out. And everyone has a laugh. And it's like no harm was really done to the person because they can all laugh about it later. I will say we're seeing more of a Uhura that is innocent and doe-eyed. And I'm not used to that because I feel like the Uhura from the movies would have never fallen for that. She would have known not to wear her dress attire to the dinner. And so I have to say, I'm not sure what road they're taking this Uhura on. I feel like the Michael that we got in Discovery was a very overconfident person who knew everything, regardless if she was right or wrong. And then in Uhura, we get someone who's so innocent and unsure of herself and doesn't even know if she really wants to be at Starfleet. And it's like, that's not the her that we know and love from other seasons. And I'm not sure if I like that, because by the time we know her on the Enterprise, she knows what she wants. She knows she wants to be there. She knows she wants to be in Starfleet. And this one is using it as I'm running away from my life. Not that I really want to be here. So I don't know how I feel about her yet. I feel like this episode was supposed to be like a turning point for her to make her full gun-ho Starfleet. I don't dislike her, but I'm just unsure about her right now, where the direction the writers are taking her. What did you think about her?
I agree. I like the bond that they're starting to show between Spock and Uhura. I appreciate the honesty and the cultural references. Like you, I wanted to see a more confident. I just wasn't prepared for, I don't know, helping to boost her confidence, similar to Tilly's. I wasn't prepared for that. I was just thinking that she was okay. She, like Spock said, worked really hard, and Pike said to get there, willing to take on certain missions. And she's just seemed like during the mission, she was not. It seemed to me that she wasn't as confident and wanting to use her skills to help solve the problems.
I will say I did like her little humble brag. I speak 37 languages. Yes, right. Honey, tell them how many languages you speak. I liked that little humble brag. But to go back to what you said, like she was on her away mission, and it's like, this is my first away mission. Okay, and?
Yeah, like, and everyone knew that.
Like, we all know that. Like, and the thing is, we've all been in her spot. Like, whenever I start a new job and they're like, day one, hit the ground running, it's like, oh, no. This is my first day. I don't really know how to do this. Like, well, you know how to do your job, right? Do your job. A position I feel like most people are always in, that first day jitters of doing something for the first time. But at the same time, it's like, you're also need gather yourself and just understand you may be nervous, but that doesn't mean you don't do your job because it's your first time. Like, how do you learn if you don't try? I definitely like that Spock told her in his very much way, there are thousands of people who want to be in your position. So if you don't want it, move aside and let someone else have it. I was like, all right, yes, Spock. That's how you respectfully tell someone, we are happy that you are here, but if you don't want to be here, leave. Like, we won't kick you out, but if you don't want to do this, you need to leave.
Right. She's also showing how young she is by kind of like oversharing a bit. Mm-hmm. When the captain asks her about her background and about where she sees herself in 10 years, and she could have gave a standard answer, you know, and wanted to pursue the next, I don't know, set of ranks in the communications field, but she didn't. She aired her heart, but I think it caught a few people off guard by hearing that much. Now for Pike, I think he was happy to hear that because he likes honesty, and I think he's going through some heartful reflection of his own. So yeah.
No, definitely agree. Pike definitely respects honesty, and Spock told her that, like, that wasn't a ding against her, what she said to Pike, because Pike does. I feel like Spock sort of told her that's sort of a ding to everyone else. Right. And you're right. It is showing how young she is, because she hasn't learned. I don't know. It also showed a very different Uhura than we saw at the end of episode 1, because episode 1, she was so excited to be there. And then now we get one who's like, well, I don't know if I'm full Starfleet. Go ahead.
I also, in the first episode, she was very bubbly. Yes. She was less bubbly this episode, and I'm glad.
Yes. Oh, I'm very glad.
But fast forwarding just a bit, they went on their way mission to the Comet because to find out more about the Comet, because Comet had like force fields and didn't want to like break apart like they planned with this science resolution they thought to this problem. So they went aboard the Comet, and then like Kirk, the xenologist that he is, decided to touch the egg. And then like Uhura's like, no, don't do it. I don't think that's a good idea. And she's the newbie.
And Spock was like, hey, I see energy pulsing. I don't know if you saw, guys, I was rolling my eyes as hard as I possibly can, because yes, let's be on an alien piece of technology and something lights up, and let's go ahead and just randomly touch it. Let's go ahead and randomly touch some alien piece of technology that was able to create its own force field. Because, dude, Kirk, what are you doing?
She was right. She should trust her gut. And come on, xenoanthropologists, like, you didn't know this? Like, let's analyze before we start to interfere in alien. Like, this is another life form. Goodness gracious.
It was very much like, dude, why? I was rooting for you, because like, even when Uhura was like, this is my first, when he asked her to do her job, and then he fails at his, and she's like, it's my first away mission, and he's like, I know. Does that mean you don't know how to like read the alien language? Like, figure it out. So I was like, dude, I thought I was gonna be rooting for you to be like her, like, hey, do this. And then it's like, no, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. Like, doing the backtrack real quick, right before they get onto the Comet, we see some flirtation happening from Nurse Chapel and Spock. And the thing is, it's like a one-sided flirtation, because Spock has no idea what's going on. He does not realize, like, he's answering her questions like honestly, and you can see she's like play flirting with him, and he's just like, I answered your question. Like, it's like when you flirt with someone who doesn't understand flirting, like, oh, I didn't realize we were flirting. Because when Uhura brings it back up to them on the Comet, and Spock is like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Nurse Chapel. And he's like, and he was almost offended, like, she's not my girlfriend. I don't know if he took that as a insult, because as we can see in this episode, he doesn't really get laughing at someone else's expense. And so he, like, actually, to your point, he probably would not have hazed Uhura, because he wouldn't have understood it in that manner. He wouldn't have, like, he didn't do the dress hazing, but he did do like a verbal messing around with her with the other with the alien, who was like, he was sort of letting her dig a hole. But yeah, he would have never done the dress hazing.
Right. And he wore his uniform to the dinner, as well as number one and a few other people. He didn't go as casual as Ortiz showing off her belly button.
She could get it all day, every day. I love that girl. I don't know what it is about that character, but she just oozes confidence, and I love it.
Yes.
I hope she does not break my heart in the future. I hope that she continues to be a great person, because I refuse to fall for a character like I did in Discovery, and just to turn out, why? I made so many roles for you, and you just blew them all up.
And I like her hair.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If I could rock that style, I definitely would. So then we come to like the biggest issue of this episode is that the Comet is being watched or guarded by this group called the Shepherds. And I'm going to try to be very careful in how I explain, talk about them, because I could accidentally offend people. They're crazy religious people. And I say this as someone who is a religious person, but they're taking it to the extreme that we see with some people. It's like there's no other way but their way. And it's like, could you open your mind and understand that it's not okay for people to die just because you think it's preordained? Like, stop it. They are those people you talk to who have only grown up surrounded by people who believe the exact same thing as them. So they only accept their word as truth, and everyone else doesn't understand. And it's very annoying. I just wanted to slap the dude the entire time he spoke. I was like, you're the reason people hate religion. You're that guy.
I wanted to slap Pike, because Pike wasn't listening to them. I didn't feel like this was the same Pike that we experienced before, who was more opening to other cultures and listening. Like, he made a lot of judgments at first without really learning about, okay, so why do you feel this way? Like, let's find out more. He started name calling and wouldn't call the planet the way that they call it. It just didn't seem very diplomatic.
I honestly felt exactly the opposite, because I felt like Pike he corrected himself after he realized he called it a comet twice, and he saw the look on the guy's face, and he corrected himself to calling it the correct thing, which is mahit or something like that. And then he also understood that while they were going off of faith, he was also like, they saw the projections of what's going to happen. So I saw it as he understood what they were talking about, but they were going with only the knowledge that this was preordained so they don't touch anything, versus he was like, well, I can't allow someone to die. I can't allow a whole world to die just because you don't want to move the comet out of its trajectory. So I feel like Pike was being as understanding as he could without letting other people die, because I felt like the Shepherds weren't listening, because they didn't want to hear. There's like, basically they didn't want to let Pike save his people. When the group was actually able to beam off of, he didn't listen to Pike, and Pike was trying to explain, like, we didn't do that, they did themselves, or the comet responded, and he's like, you're gonna die. I felt like the Shepherds were the ones being who weren't listening, because I like, Pike understood what they were coming from, but that doesn't mean he can respect that to the point of letting 1 million people die so the comet doesn't get moved.
I felt as though it took 2 conversations with Pike to make that happen. And it wasn't until number 1 said that he was outgunned that he realized he needed to change his course and negotiate differently with them, which I think, based on what I remember from like the Red Angel, from the episode in which Pike went to the church and we found out that Pike's parents were I can't remember if they were theologians, but they were deeply involved in religion, that I thought that he had, I don't know, a deeper, better history and background of spirituality and faith. And so I thought that he would bring that to the table. So I was surprised to see how, I don't know, adverse as, I don't know, he just wasn't listening and opening to me until he found out he was outgunned. And then he was like, oh, okay, mute, let me figure out what we're going to do next.
Well, I felt like, though, he couldn't really be open to them because they didn't want to do anything to the comet. So they didn't want to stop the comet from hitting, because when he admitted that the comet's going to hit the planet and could possibly kill everyone who lives there and destroying the planet, The Shepherds was like, well, then that's going to happen. I saw it as he understood where they were coming from, but he had to negate it because he couldn't allow millions of people or millions of people to die to save them. And granted, while yes, when he realized that they were outmanned, outgunned, and their ship was faster, he had to change how he handled certain things. But like, there was no way for him to get out of this being respectful to them without lying to them, because they didn't want to hear it. Like, they didn't want to hear anything. He's like, next time you try and do anything with the Comet, we're going to destroy you. Instead of like being open to, oh no, the Comet's going to destroy millions of people. Well, if that's what's going to happen, that's going to happen.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I think the first interaction with diplomacy should be about listening and then figuring out how to negotiate to find a truce between both parties. And it for me, his first act didn't seem as though he was listening as much and he was into negotiation, but he ended up following their rules, and they did not. So after they got the crew off, he didn't do anything else on the Comet. Like the way Spock was able to maneuver, it was still following the rules that they had set with the Shepherds.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this one, because I definitely feel like the Shepherds left him no way to be respectful truly to their face. I'll say this. The reason I said agree to disagree is because like I felt like he was being respectful in the opening, because he corrected himself when they told him it's not just merely a comet, and then when he called it a comet again, he was like, I'm sorry. Before he referred to it as its actual name, what they call it, and he was trying to explain this is why they're doing this, and the Shepherds didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I felt like he was being respectful at the point that he could be, before he was like, I have to pick which, like, what do I let them allow millions of people to die, or do I stand up for what Starfleet's for? So it feels like it was like between a rock and a hard place. So we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. We have to talk about some characters in this episode, because we're seeing some more of these new characters that we were introduced last episode. And one of them is La'an, because I still always never hear how they pronounce her name. She was giving Uhura some side looks. She was being very much acting out of fear or anger or history when they were on the Comet. And I will admit, Uhura was having her little panic attack moment, and Spock was trying to help her out, and they shared a look, and she looked back. It looked like La'an was glaring at Uhura, and I didn't understand that. And then they were back on the ship, and her first instinct was to like run and hide. And it's also sort of, and like if they had did that, it would have still left millions of people to die. When she was like, because this is before like Spock would have left. And part of me is like, she's acting out of fear of her history, of what she's been through, which she has gone through something atrocious and awful, and it's like scarring. But at the same time, you cannot react to everything the same way. So I don't really know how I feel about her yet. I haven't really made a decision if I like her, if I dislike her. Because I know I don't truly like her, but I don't know enough about her to like, I don't like the shit. I'm just unsure about her. What do you think about this character?
Okay, so similar to Uhura, she's an orphan as well, because she said that all of the people on her planet died. She's the only survivor, and number one saved her. Mm-hmm. So I think she's a fighter. She's a survivor. And when she sees other people that's not as, she's like, oh, right? And Uhura was not as confident, right? But I think that she's in a different frame of mind, and she's also the security chief, so she's at a completely different level. She was interim captain for a little bit while they were trying to get Pike back on board, so she's much more assertive, go-getter, survival mode, and Uhura's not at that stage yet. And so I think she could get a little annoyed when other people are not as gung-ho about it, but she knows when to step back. Like she was like, I have not learned music. I'll let the two of you handle that, because that's not my thing. But she didn't try. She knows when, and she didn't say anything to Uhura. She just was like, I don't connect with this. She was just, you could tell that she just didn't know what to, she just thought it was strange what Uhura was saying about not knowing what to do in her first away mission. Just seemed a little strange for her. Also, in the last episode, we noticed that Leanne stepped up to help Pike and Spock get down the elevator corridor to get into, I forgot the name of that planet, but to save number one. She she played that damsel in distress to help, and then gave Spock a clue, like the pinch, use your finger or something like that, to like, so she's used to improvising. And she seems to be fast on her toes. She's like a stone face, so it's hard to read her, but I get the vibe that she's strong and that she knows where she wants to be, and she wants to be part of Starfleet and a Federation.
I definitely agree that she knows where she wants to be. I know she wants to be a part of the Federation. I have to say, I do disagree with, I don't feel like she's 100% strong in every sense. I feel like she's strong when she knows she's going to win, and if she's not, she wants them to retreat. And I get though, like sometimes you retreat to live another day so you can survive, but yeah, definitely agree. She definitely wants to be a Starfleet, and there are in the last episode and in this episode, she has shown that. I definitely agree that she didn't really respect Uhura when it came to like, look, man up, do what you got to do to get through this part, because we're stuck in the Comet. And I feel like if she's in the danger, like that's where, like she's fully in it, and she stands up. But I just didn't like when she got back to the bridge, her first instinct was to like, we got to warp out of here. And I just like, oh, everyone else was trying to save the planet and you're so willing to let them die. And I just wasn't, I didn't really know how I felt about that.
I didn't feel as though she was willing to let them die. She, to what I understood about that scene, is that she wanted to leave so that they could build back up their what is it called? Their force field around them. And they wanted to gear back up. There was a way in which she phrased it so that they would leave for a bit, build up their resources again, and then return. I think that's what she wanted to do, to also save the entire crew, because she knew that they were outgunned, and this other race that they had never faced before had additional technology. So I feel like that was the case. I think though Pike overruled her compared to the last episode where he followed her with that instinct. Was he overruled her because he knew that he wasn't going to die in this episode. And so I think we're going to see that also time and time again throughout the series for the next 5 years. We're going to see Pike taking a lot of risk because he knows his fate. He knows that he's not going to die in all of these situations. So he's going to take a lot of risk. Whereas before, I think the previous Pike may have been a little bit more conservative with decisions to save the whole crew.
I see that, because I definitely see that Pike. I'll say this: the Pike that we met in Discovery season 3, was it 3 or 2? 2. Oh my gosh, so many seasons. We do see a lot of the same Pike in this season, but we also see him go a little step above to where he would have had maybe a little bit more monicum of, all right, let's hold up for a second. He's like, look, no, we got 10 years. Let's do this. Because he admitted to number one that he knows he knows exactly who he's saving. So that tells me that while he was in that time frame, he probably knows, like he saw all the memories. And so besides himself knowing that he doesn't die today, he may be like, oh, I had conscious memories of all of these people on the bridge or the ship, and I know they didn't die here. So none of us are dying here today. So let's go ahead and do this.
Right. And this Pike has really fluffy, full hair. Like he had a shorter cut before. His hair is sporting a lot of, it's a little higher.
Waves. I love it.
He's much more stylish now.
He is very much more stylish. And I'm loving, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. And so, while we don't agree 100% on La'an or La'an, completely fine. Everyone rubs everyone a different way. So we'll see what happens. Because again, we're only 2 episodes in and we've already seen her in 2 different scenarios. And she had 2 different in our opinions, she had 2 different reactions. So it's very, I will say that's one thing I really love about I'm loving about Strange New Worlds is that we're really seeing them in vastly different avenues versus the same storyline. So then we see some of Spock in this episode. We see that Spock doesn't really get some jokes sometimes. And then we also see that Spock tries to give pep talks, and he's very proud of his pep talks, even though Uhura's like, you might want to keep working on them. We see that Spock does have that air of mentoring his teammates and helping them grow. What did you think of Spock's pep talks throughout to Uhura? Because I feel like he only really gave them to Uhura this episode. What did you think of them? Of him?
So I like the first, like her. I like the first one and the third one. I didn't like the first one on the Comet. But you know, Spock is still getting to know, I don't know, how to communicate with humans, and he admits he's not a good communicator, and he's learning how to also win the laugh, how to laugh at certain things. What I felt confusing was that the xenopologist Kirk, and I call him xenopologist Kirk so that I don't confuse myself with Captain Kirk. So xenopologist Kirk reports to Spock, and that was explained in the last episode. But Kirk was not following Spock's orders when Spock told Kirk to step away from the egg. And
you're right.
Why wasn't Spock giving like more, I don't know, pep talks and different things to the xenopologist Kirk? I don't know, I'm frustrated with that because there's a direct report line there. Spock, keep your people in order, in line, because it ended up working out to xenopologist Kirk's like not demise, but like in a
well, for a second he was dead. There was a second where his heart was not going.
Right. Right. He was knocked unconscious, and then they spent time using a defibrillator to bring him back. Thank you. To bring him back to life. But that awakened the Comet's force field. So if Kirk did not do that, I think this whole story would have gone into a different way. So Spock, I'm blaming part of this on you. He reports to you.
No, agree, because yeah, you're definitely putting it in perspective. Kirk, you report to Spock if your boss is saying, hey, an energy field is like rising up as you're getting closer, don't do that. Stop with this. Oh, nothing can happen to me. Like, dude, stop. Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I agree with everything that was just said. I have nothing to add to that, except for the fact that Spock and her were not vibing on harmony. Though you didn't mention that part, but their harmonies, she was like, match my pitch. He was not matching your pitch, honey. Like, Spock, in my eyes, you can do no wrong except sing, because you were not matching her pitch at all. I definitely felt like La'an definitely could have like helped her out, because you didn't heighten your voice. Her pitch is and you're like, you were not at the same, but maybe it was just harmony and not pitch. But I thought she said match my pitch.
Yes, right. I'm sure they don't teach this part in Vulcan Science Academy. He's not trained on it. He was trying. He was trying to think.
I'll give him that. He was trying, because he did look a lot on like, are you serious? So we see when everyone gets back to the ship, the Shepherds are trying to destroy Enterprise, even though technically, because they didn't listen, that the Enterprise didn't actually do anything wrong. They communicated with the Comet. They didn't want to hear what Pike was trying to say, so Pike was like, all right, fine, let's do this. And so knowing that he can't outrun the ship, because they still need to save everyone down there on the planet, he tells Ortega, okay, I'm gonna need you to get in front of the Comet, because he knows that they're not going to fire on the Comet because it's their holy relic. So it's like, it's one way of using, it was his way of using their religion against them without being sort of disrespectful. Right. Because like Ortega was moving that ship, and I was like, I'm loving it. And I love how he sort of made it like a bet that she had to win. Like, I hear you told people you're gonna be the best pilot. Well, prove it. And they get in front of the ship. He tells them to turn off all the systems except life support. And he basically, they don't fire on the Comet. And then Spock goes out in his little Galileo and basically knocks other comets or pieces of the comet into the comet to knock it off course slightly. But he never touched the comet. And at the very end, the Shepherds got to be right. And the one thing I liked about Pike is that a lesser person would have told them, well, actually, we did that, but we didn't touch it. Like, but we respected your rules. Like, a lesser person wouldn't be okay being told that they're wrong, even though that they were correct, you know? Then near the end of the episode, we see that all of this was out of their control, both the Shepherds and Enterprises, because the comet seemed to know that the Enterprise would save it. And so the Shepherds got to be right while they were wrong, because this was all preordained, apparently. But the Enterprise played their role. And like, it makes you think, well, if they didn't do it, what would have happened? Like, would the comet have corrected itself so it wouldn't have killed the people? Or was it always, did they always know that the Enterprise would come and save this world? Because in saving this world, they saved it even further by allowing rain to come down on this earth and replenish it. And we see the natural inhabitants crying tears of joy at rain. So it makes me think, when was the last time it rained here? Because they're almost in disbelief, and then they're all crying out in like elation. So it was a very great ending to the episode, because it basically made both parties correct and wrong at the same time. It made the Shepherds correct but wrong, and it made Enterprise like, we had to intervene because nothing was going to happen, but the comet was like, I knew you were, so you did exactly what I wanted you to do. So it's like, you didn't. So it's like, the Shepherds are right, you have to have faith, but at the same time you need actions. So it's like, faith without works is dead. So I love that little tie-in. I was like, look, you're both wrong and you're both right, and I love it. Any thoughts?
Yes, they clearly tied up this ending, put a pretty little bow on it. Everyone's able to live happily ever after. And we typically do not get that in Discovery. So there's a big difference between this and that. There's also a few other so that's a difference. I found a few similarities with Discovery. So Kirk is a xenoanthropologist. Michael's a xenoanthropologist. So I'm not quite sure if there's has to be a xenoanthropologist on every ship, or if this is really important to understand cultural competence to ensure that there's some someone with this level of expertise on away missions. But I like the idea of that. I just am concerned about this Kirk being the person. Like I was about Michael though too, as well, for many of the decisions with some
they
of the
both didn't listen. They both don't listen. Is that
right?
Is that a trait?
Uhura's parents died also in a shuttlecraft, as well as her brother. It was sad to hear that, but I feel like I learned a lot more about her origin story. Michael's also, her parents passed away, as we know. So they're on different trajectories, because Michael was adopted by Vulcans, so that took her in a completely different realm. But Uhura is also finding her own footing without her parents. And so I like this also journey of overcoming that obstacle, much more so than the Michael journey with the loss of her parents. The comet, though, reminds me of the spear data and the fact that it also, divine intervention, it knows the path and it helps out in a way. You look a little disbelief, but I feel as though they're two things. And originally they weren't even quite sure what the spear data was. It was just like, it looked like it could have been a planet, a comet, but it also interferes. It pushed them out of the way where they were going to try to explode the spear data. So I don't know. I was looking and finding similarities there, much more so than a difference.
I'll say last episode 1, Pike definitely was like, look, do it my way. But I'm trying to save you guys from making the mistake of my planet, so you gotta do it my way.
I'm glad he did not do that this time.
Yeah, this time it was like, look, we just need to do what we can to stop the comet from hitting the planet. Can we just stop the comet? I'm not trying to destroy the comet. This one, let's just move it out of the way, just slightly. So it's like he calmed down a bit.
Yeah, well, after being reprimanded by Federation.
Mm-hmm. Like the only reason you're getting out of this is because the whole issue was classified, and so we can't prove you did anything wrong because we can't prove how they got warped because it's all classified. I sort of disagree with number one. I think Pike actually has accepted his fate because he has realized that if he doesn't do what he's going to do, all those kids are going to die. And we see him like at the end of the episode run through the names of all the people he's going to save. And that's minimum of the people's names that he's going to save. Because like if he's not there, it could be something different. The other captain could be there and maybe die. So like he may not have accepted that he's going to die. Like he may not be okay with like, no one's really okay. Like, okay, I'm dying. Great. Yay. It's more of, all right, my death is going to save someone else's. And if I like, it's more of a, I can't just let 10 other people die to save my life when I know I still have 10 years. And then maybe he can change it to where that never happens. But like I think he's more of accepted, this is my fate. I'm gonna live my life and not let it hold me up. And then I think if something down the road is like, well, he can change his fate, he probably will. But I think he's accepted it to the point where he's not gonna let it distract him like we saw in the last episode. He may not be 100% okay with dying, but I think he's like, look, I can't change that right now because I don't know what's going to happen. Because I still hold, even though I could be 100% wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will admit it, the time crystal, they lied to him about the time crystal to see if he was trustworthy to get it, to be like, okay, if you don't take it, that fate will never happen. But if you do take the time crystal, you're like locking in your fate. But because he was honorable enough to still take the time crystal of knowing that he was going to die, I feel like that was a final test to see if they were worthy of it. And that's not going to be his fate. I don't know. Could be 100% wrong because they may try to do everything the exact same way as it's already been done, or they may change it up. So I still hold that this may not actually even be his fate. It was a test and discovery. We'll see. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, if they're following canon, then it's his fate, because that's in the pilot of the original series. And then Spock conducts mutiny to save Pike after the beginning of the original seris. They would have to backpedal a lot to change. It just seems like that's the fate that we're moving in towards. And it's this show is the journey to get to that point.
I hope not. Because otherwise, then there's no real point to this show if they're just going to do what we already know. Because nothing's really going to matter because we all know how it all ends.
No, I think there's still a point to the show. The point of the show is to also bridge Discovery in the original series, where the general population thought that there was a big disconnect. And then also it helps to develop the characters for the original series. We're exploring other planets that the original series did not, and also some, I think, politically correct course correction to the original series.
I mean, that always comes because like even shows that were filmed 10, 15 years ago, they're not politically correct anymore. It's like, oh, y'all did things that y'all weren't supposed to do. So I hope this isn't canon. Like I really hope this isn't as canon as the original series, because I understand they'll keep some aspects of it, but it takes away the what ifs, because again, we know how everything ends. So there's no real skin in the game for viewers if we know what this fate of the character is, and that's never going to change. Like if they're in a situation and it's like a life or death thing, I know they're not going to die because I know they're going to survive. So it's going to be like, if they're going to be, and if they show up in the original series, then what's happening to them right now doesn't scare me. I'm not like invested, if that makes sense. Because if I know nothing's going to change, then nothing they do matters because I already know who they are.
Right.
The only thing I'm seeing is new worlds, but I'm not really getting anything else. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm hoping it's not 100% canon, so that way it does give them some leeway to where the character isn't stuck in a box that was created years ago, that they're able to be different and branch out and not have the same fate as the original series. So that's what I'm saying. I hope it's not canon, so we're not getting the same people.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I also know, though, that the fans, the Star Trek fans, need canon. And one of the biggest concerns about Discovery was that it deviated from canon. So that's why I think that this is like part of the course correction to help with the folks that are really in love with the original series and need a more modern view of that.
Side note, I feel like fan service episodes and shows never really end well because, again, you can never make everyone happy because not everyone wants the same thing. So just write the storyline. Don't write it to be, we're catering to, I really hope they're not writing this to cater to fans. I really do, because every time I see like a fan service show or episode or season, it doesn't really work out well because you're doing so much to keep everyone happy. Sometimes it doesn't stay true to the story that they're trying to actually create. And so too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm a firm believer of too many cooks in the kitchen, the food gets spoiled. So that's just my thought. People, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but you can't say that I'm wrong because I can't say that you're wrong. I could just say that I agree or disagree. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. And we have a big season ahead of us.
We do. As always, I'm Andrea.
I'm Anika.
And live long and prosper.